Yes, Arya said. He's one of his best friends from college. As she said this, Arya was thinking that since Charlie and Darren were such good friends, he still had the nerve to give a gift only worth a few $100s. She couldn't wait for her father to expose him in front of everyone. However, no one saw this coming. Orion sighed and said, "That must be a very good friend." Not many people would be willing to give something so valuable. When everyone heard this, they were stunned. Valuable? Was this piece of junk actually expensive? Gavin scoffed to himself. Valuable? I could go to the vintage market, buy a forgery, and spill some coffee on it to make it look old. It would look more real than this painting. At that moment, Orion said earnestly, "This is a genuine work by the ancient-era painter Harvey Pike." Although Harvey Pike isn't an extremely famous painter, he was still one of the outstanding artists of his time. He's considered one of the great maverick artists. After a pause, Orion added, "I estimate the market price for this painting is around $200,000. More than $200,000? Arya was completely floored. She thought this thing wasn't even worth $100, and now she was hearing it was worth over $200,000. Darren was speechless. He finally blurted out, "Oh, Charlie, how could you give me something so expensive? This is way too much." Charlie replied calmly, "Darren, it's the thought that counts. Don't worry about the price." Darren was deeply touched. He never expected his good friend from college to be so incredibly generous. Gavin just stood there looking dazed. What was going on? This piece of junk was worth over $200,000? Over $200,000! Damn it, was this some kind of prank? The other students were in shock too. This time, no one dared to look down on Charlie again. After all, this was a guy who casually gave away paintings worth more than $200,000 as gifts. Everyone was now envious of Darren. Talk about a score! To get such an expensive gift for his grand opening, he'd really hit the jackpot. At that moment, Arya was also in shock, and her opinion of Charlie changed completely. She knew her father was an expert. If he said the painting was worth over $200,000, then it was definitely worth that much. Oh my God! Darren's friend actually gave such an expensive gift. That was an incredible gesture. Thinking of this, she looked at Charlie with stars in her eyes. Claire asked, puzzled, "Charlie, how much did you spend on this painting?" Charlie smiled slightly and said in a low voice, "Actually, it didn't cost much. The guy who sold it to me was an acquaintance. He got it for a steal himself, so he sold it to me for a low price." Claire couldn't help but say, "A $200,000 painting sold to you for just a few thousand? Is something that good even possible?" Charlie said casually, "Some people don't think money is everything, right? Otherwise, I wouldn't have given this painting to Darren." Claire nodded lightly. Charlie was right. If money were the most important thing, no one would give away something so expensive. It seemed that even though her husband wasn't the most successful guy, he definitely had more courage than most people. At that moment, Charlie stood up. He looked at Gavin, who was now flustered, and asked with a smile, "Mr. Gavin, how would you like to eat this table? Do you want to just start chewing, or should I have it chopped up into smaller pieces for you with a knife?" Gavin wanted to crawl into a hole and die. Damn it! What was going on? Did he forget to read the horoscope this morning or something? Why did Charlie keep owning him, one thing after another? He never would have believed it, but the painting was actually real. and it was worth more than $200,000. But he'd already made that stupid bet. What was he supposed to do now? Was he really supposed to eat the table? Impossible. If his car got wrecked, he could just buy a new one. But eating a table? How could anyone even do that? He'd actually die if he tried. The other classmates started taunting him too. "Hey, Gavin, you're the one who said you'd eat the table. You're not backing out now, are you?" "Yeah, we're all waiting for the show." Someone slapped the table, and a voice called out, "Come on, Gavin, let's see it." Gavin's face turned ugly. He blurted out, "Come on, guys. You don't have to be so harsh, do you?" "Harsh?" Charlie said with a smile. "You started this yourself. Everyone's just encouraging you to keep your promise. Why are you getting all defensive?" Gavin knew he couldn't get out of this one, so he had to swallow his pride. He said in a strained voice, "Look, I was being impulsive just now. I was wrong. I apologize to Charlie and to everyone. I hope you can all forgive me." Seeing him back down so suddenly, everyone was shocked. Was this the same Gavin? Since when does he admit he's wrong? But Gavin had no other choice. What else could he do? Sure enough, as soon as he apologized, one of the classmates said, "Hey, it takes a lot for Gavin to admit he's wrong and say sorry. Besides, it's not like we can actually force him to eat a table. Let's just drop it." "Yeah, forget it. You can't eat a table. Nobody's ever eaten a table. Let's just get this party started." Charlie also knew it was impossible for Gavin to eat the table. But now that he'd admitted it, Charlie's goal was achieved. When you act all tough, you have to be ready for the consequences. But this was just a small taste of what was coming. It was only the beginning. Much worse things were waiting for Gavin down the road. So he said, since Gavin admitted he was wrong and apologized, let's forget about the table. Today is about the grand opening of the Moonlight Bistro, so let's not steal his thunder. Gavin breathed a sigh of relief, but in his heart, he was already fantasizing about killing Charlie to get his revenge. Charlie wasn't planning on letting him off the hook either. He sent a text message to Doris Young. "Which one of our deputy managers has the last name Sawyer and has a son named Gavin? Check for me." Doris Young quickly replied, "We have a vice president named Declan Sawyer, and his son's name is Gavin." "What's going on, Mr. Chairman? What are your orders?" Charlie replied, "Fire him, and do it now." "Okay, sir." Gavin had no idea that his father had just been fired from the Emgrand Group and was going through the termination process as they spoke. Having finally escaped his predicament, he breathed a sigh of relief. But he was already secretly plotting to find an opportunity to get revenge on Charlie. More importantly, he needed to find a way to get his dignity back in front of his classmates. Otherwise, after getting owned by Charlie twice in a row, how could he ever act tough in front of them again? Just as he was trying to figure out how to get his status back, a loud noise came from the entrance. Everyone turned to look. They saw a group of rough-looking young guys storming in. They all had tattoos and were carrying baseball bats, lead pipes, and stuff like that. They looked like bad news from the moment you saw them. Seeing this crew barge in, everyone's expressions changed, especially Darren's and Arya's, whose eyes were filled with fear. The leader, a guy with a huge scar on his face, scanned the room. He pointed at Darren and grinned. "Hey, boss, throwing such a big party and you don't give us a heads up? You looking down on us or something?" Arya's face went pale. She forced a smile and asked, "What can we do for you guys?" Before they opened, Arya had heard that some people collected protection money in this area. The last owner of this restaurant was supposedly run out of business by these same gangsters and had no choice but to sell the place. But Arya figured, in this day and age, would thugs really be brazen enough to demand money in broad daylight? That's why she bought the place for a low price, ready to run it herself. She never expected that on opening day, the local muscle would show up at her door. Scarface grinned. When you do business around here, you gotta pay respect to our boss. We're not asking for much, just give us 20% of your restaurant. In return, if any trouble comes your way, we'll take care of it. Then, Scarface's voice turned cold. If you don't, then don't blame us for getting rough. You'll be closing up shop for good today. Hearing the demand, both Darren and Arya gasped. 20% of the shares, just like that. This is daylight robbery. You've got 1 minute to think it over. Suddenly, Gavin saw his chance to be the hero, so he stepped forward immediately and said, "Who do you guys work for?" Scarface shot back with a smirk. "And who are you?" "Do I need to report to you?" Gavin scoffed and said, "Let me tell you something. My father has connections all over Oris Hill, with the cops and the crooks. I'll make one call to the head of the development zone right now." Scarface looked at him, a little intimidated. He said hesitantly, "You really know the leaders of the development zone?" "Of course," Gavin said coldly. "Get out if you know what's good for you." Scarface frowned. "All right. If you can actually get someone important on the phone, I won't come to this place again. But if you can't, then don't blame me for getting rough with you." Arya said nervously, "Gavin, please, make the call." Gavin smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry. I'll call the head of the development zone right now." The Grand Group also had projects in the development zone, and Gavin's father was in charge of them. The head of the zone had a lot of contact with his father, and he knew Gavin as well. Gavin dialed the number directly, putting it on speaker and deliberately raising his voice. "Mayor Simons, why are there a bunch of gangsters in the development zone collecting protection fees? They've all shown up at my classmate's business." There was a stunned silence on the other end. Then a voice said, "Gavin? What's going on?" Gavin said, "A friend of mine opened a restaurant and is getting hassled by guys demanding protection money. I was hoping you could do something about it, Mayor Simons." The person on the other end paused for a moment, then said with a hint of embarrassment, "I'm sorry, Gavin. That's not really something I handle. I'm in a meeting right now, so I'll have to hang up." Without waiting for Gavin to speak, he hung up the phone. Gavin was dumbfounded. What happened? Wasn't Mayor Simons always sucking up to his father, hoping to get more investment from the Grand Group? Why did he just brush him off like that? What Gavin didn't know was that the news of his father being fired from the Grand Group had already spread throughout the entire leadership of Oris Hill.
To know more, listen to the audio series Heir in Hiding, only on the Pocket FM app.